The Galactic Council gathered on Helion Prime in a bright morning that felt routine, peaceful, almost boring, and no one had the slightest idea that within the next few minutes every leader, every soldier, every proud species present would question everything they believed about humanity, power, and the silent shadows that float between the stars. Delegates filled the great chamber, laughing, whispering jokes, and calmly preparing for another day of diplomacy. The air shimmered with soft golden light from the giant skylight above, and the sound of footsteps echoed between tall crystalline walls. This was a place where peace was discussed, not war. This was a place where arrogance was easy, because Helion Prime believed itself safe. And so, when the small human delegation walked into the chamber with no escort, no guards, no weapons, and not even a single drone for security, the room reacted exactly as expected. Aliens laughed. Some smirked. Some crossed their arms with cheap confidence. A few whispered loudly on purpose, making sure the humans heard everything. "They travel alone again," one reptilian ambassador muttered, shaking his head in mock disappointment. "They always do that. Humans trust too much." Another alien with long silver horns chuckled. "Or maybe they have nothing worth guarding." The human diplomat simply offered a polite smile, bowing his head with quiet respect, and took his seat at the long circular table. No emotion, no fear, no aggression, just calm. Too calm, almost unnaturally calm. And that calm bothered the council more than they admitted. Humans had attended many meetings before, always peaceful, always patient, always soft-spoken. Aliens believed humans were weak because they didn't bring warships everywhere like most species did. They believed humans depended on friendship, treaties, and diplomacy instead of firepower. They believed humans were harmless. But the human diplomat knew something the council did not. He knew what was coming. And he knew the exact second the galaxy would stop laughing. The meeting began with the council demanding that humanity surrender more routes, more mining rights, more access to their outer colonies. They spoke with strong, proud voices, as if humans had no right to refuse. The human diplomat listened silently. He did not interrupt. He did not protest. He only waited. His calm eyes studied the room as council members argued and lectured him, completely unaware that they were minutes away from losing the very breath in their throat. When the council finished their demands, the room fell into a strange silence. All eyes turned toward the human diplomat. He opened his mouth slightly, as if to respond politely, but something unnatural happened. Every light in the chamber flickered, once, twice, then dimmed. The glowing walls trembled softly. Holograms cracked with static. The deep hum of Helion's power core stumbled like a heartbeat skipping a beat. Delegates turned their heads in confusion. A few laughed nervously. "Probably just a power glitch," someone said. But then, the alarms began. Sharp, sudden, violent. Red lights flashed across the walls. Emergency runes lit up. Long-range scanners screamed warnings in every language. A trembling voice echoed over the loudspeakers. "Unidentified object entering the Helion system. Size unknown, mass unknown, energy levels unknown. We cannot calculate shape. Stand by, stand by, stand." The voice cut out. Silence fell over the world. Every alien in the chamber froze. Some stood from their seats, eyes wide. Some grabbed the edge of the table. A few reached instinctively for weapons they were not allowed to bring inside. The human diplomat remained seated, hands folded, face calm like he had expected this exact moment. Outside the chamber, the sky darkened. The sound arrived next, soft at first, then growing. A deep metallic hum rolled across the air like the slow breath of something ancient and enormous. It vibrated through the city, through the walls, through the bones of every creature present. Delegates pressed their hands to their chests, feeling the strange tremor. It was not just a sound, it was a presence. A voice without words. A warning without language. One alien general shouted, "What is that? What is entering our orbit? Why can't we scan it?" But no one answered. Not even their own machines. The hum grew deeper, heavier, like the sky itself was shaking. Windows trembled. The great crystal spires of Helion rang like glass under pressure. Suddenly, the chamber doors burst open and council guards ran in, pale with fear, shouting that something massive, too massive for their scanners, had appeared above the planet. "It's blocking the sun," one guard yelled. "It's bigger than any station. Bigger than any dreadnought." Another guard whispered, trembling, "We can't read it. It's like the ship refuses to be scanned." Delegates turned their fear toward the humans, pointing accusing fingers. "Explain this. What have your people done? Is this a threat?" But the human diplomat still did not stand. He simply lifted his eyes, studying their panic like someone watching a storm he already knew the shape of. The hum shifted again, sending a vibration through the structure so powerful that dust fell from the ceiling. The aliens clutched the table, breath shaking. Some had tears in their eyes. And that was when the human diplomat finally moved. Slowly, calmly, he rose from his seat, straightened his jacket, looked around the room with a soft, almost gentle expression. Not angry, not proud, not threatening, just prepared. The chamber fell into a dead quiet. Not a single alien made a sound, not even breathing. And in that silence, the human diplomat whispered, voice steady, quiet, yet somehow louder than every alarm in the building. "You hear that?" No one answered. They couldn't. Their throats were tight with dread. The diplomat smiled softly, almost sadly, and said the words that would haunt the council for generations. "That's our dangerous ship." Gasps erupted. Some aliens stumbled backward. Some fell into their seats. Some shook their heads violently, refusing to believe it. A council elder whispered, "Impossible. Humans do not have ships like this. Humans could not build something that size." But the human diplomat simply walked toward the center of the chamber, standing beneath the skylight where the faint shadow of the massive ship darkened the clouds above. The shadow stretched across the city like the hand of a giant. The hum reverberated again, deeper this time, as if the ship itself was breathing in. More scanners failed. Entire systems shut down. Communications collapsed. The planet's defense grid crashed, leaving Helion Prime completely open. Delegates panicked, shouting orders into silent comms. But their voices, their fear, their confusion faded when the diplomat finally continued speaking. "You thought we were weak because we walked in without guards. You laughed because we brought no warships. You assumed peace meant powerlessness." He turned slowly, facing the far end of the chamber where high-ranking military officers stood frozen. "But humanity learned long ago that we do not need to show power to have it." His words chilled the room. Delegates swallowed hard. The hum outside grew even louder, as if the ship was answering him. The diplomat continued walking, not in pride, but in calm truth. "You demanded our territory. You demanded our resources. You demanded we bow to your counsel." His steps echoed like heartbeat pulses in the silent hall. "But before you continue, I think you should understand one thing." He paused beneath the skylight, and a streak of cold blue light from the massive object flashed across his face. "We tried diplomacy." Another pulse of deep humming shook the chamber like thunder, making some aliens collapse to their knees. The diplomat's voice turned quiet, almost whisper-soft. "Now you are hearing what happens when diplomacy ends." The room went silent. No one dared speak. No one dared breathe. The sound of the dangerous ship rolled across the sky like the voice of something ancient awakening after a long sleep. And the human diplomat looked at the council with gentle, terrifying calm, because he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had just heard humanity's warning. And the galaxy was not ready. Panic spread through the council chamber like a wave of cold wind that no one could escape, hitting every delegate, every guard, every proud leader who once believed Helion Prime was the safest world in the galaxy. And now they stood trembling because something outside was so massive, so silent, and so impossible that even their brightest scientists could not understand what they were seeing. The metallic hum grew heavier, pressing against their chests like invisible gravity, making some aliens bend forward as if the air itself became thick and hard to breathe. Guards rushed inside with wide eyes, panting, shouting fragments of broken reports that made no sense, words tumbling from their lips like fear itself. "It's not a ship. No, "It is, but it's not moving like one guard stuttered. "It entered orbit without leaving any heat trail," another cried. "The scanners, every last scanner, burned out the moment it appeared." Their voices cracked. Their hands shook. And still the human diplomat stood in the center of the room with quiet eyes, like someone who had already lived this moment in his mind many times before. Delegates turned to the ceiling as shadows blackened the skylight, turning the bright room into dim twilight. Some covered their heads. Some whimpered. Some whispered prayers to their gods. Outside, the mighty towers of Helion trembled as if something was pulling at the foundations of the entire world. The hum shifted again, becoming so deep that the windows vibrated like rippling water. A terrified ambassador shouted, "Human, what have you brought here? What is in our orbit? Answer us." But the diplomat did not raise his voice, did not rush, did not show even a hint of fear. He only looked at them with calm sorrow, as if he wished things had gone differently. The council's top general slammed his fist on the table, desperate to regain control, shouting for fleet command. "Activate outer defense grid. Scramble all warships. Get every dreadnought in the sky." But his voice echoed into silence. The comms were dead. No military responded. No alarms from outside. Nothing but the low, slow hum of something far more powerful than their entire combined fleets. A young technician from the corner of the chamber ran forward with trembling data panels in his hands. "All defense systems are offline. Every satellite is offline. Long-range communication is dead. The object in orbit is blocking our signals." The general's skin turned pale. "Blocking," he whispered. "Or controlling?" The technician looked at the human diplomat with shaking eyes. We think it allowed some systems to function at first. But now it's shutting them down one by one. Almost like," he swallowed, "like it's scanning us." A cold shiver moved through the room. The alien leaders who once mocked humanity now stepped back, fear replacing arrogance, confusion replacing pride. One alien elder whispered, "How can a human ship do this? How can humans have such technology?" But the diplomat remained silent, letting the question hang in the air like heavy fog. And then something even more terrifying happened. The hum stopped. Completely. The silence was so sudden, so complete, that it felt like the entire world was holding its breath. Delegates glanced around, afraid to even blink. Because the silence was worse than the hum, it felt intentional, like the object in orbit was listening, watching, waiting. A soft trembling passed through the floor, like a giant heartbeat beneath their feet. Then every hologram in the chamber flickered violently. For a moment, static filled the air. Colors twisted. Shapes distorted. Every screen glowed white. Delegates backed away, hands raised, expecting an explosion. But instead, everything went dark. Total black. A suffocating darkness grabbed the room for a long second. A darkness so heavy that some delegates screamed in confusion. Then, screens lit up again, but not with council symbols. A single emblem appeared everywhere. Every screen. Every hologram. Every device. Even personal implants projected it. A cold silver symbol in the shape of a circle crossed by 3 vertical lines. An old Terran military crest no alien had ever seen before. Delegates stared with wide eyes. A few collapsed into their seats. Some covered their mouths in pure horror. And before anyone could speak, a voice filled the chamber and the entire planet. A deep, calm, steady human voice. "Do not panic." The voice was everywhere. Inside walls, inside speakers, inside the very air. "We are here for our people." The words shook the galaxy's leaders like lightning striking their bones. The council elder stumbled forward, shouting toward the ceiling, "Identify yourself. Who are you? What authority do you have to invade our orbit?" The voice did not respond to him. It simply continued with quiet, controlled power. "This system has threatened our diplomats. This world has demanded territory that does not belong to it. This council has attempted to pressure Earth into submission." The delegates felt exposed, naked, judged like children caught lying. The voice lowered, becoming even colder, and the lights dimmed as if the ship's presence was breathing down their necks. Humanity does not seek conflict. Humanity does not seek war. The diplomat finally lifted his head, listening to the voice with a calm expression that frightened the council more than the ship itself. Because he wasn't shocked. He wasn't confused. He wasn't afraid. He knew this voice. He expected this voice. He belonged to whatever was speaking. The alien general tried to activate the defense grid again, shouting orders into inactive consoles. Open fire. All fleets, open fire on the unidentified vessel. But nothing responded. Not a single ship. Not a single cannon. Not a single drone. Instead, the Council's massive city-sized defense hub appeared on the screens, its lights flickering before shutting down entirely. Another message flashed across the screens. Defense system disabled by external authority. The general's voice cracked. It shut us down. All of us, delegates panicked. They shouted. They cried. They screamed at each other. And through all that chaos, the human diplomat finally stepped forward, raising his hands in a gentle request for silence. His voice was soft, emotional, almost sad. We came here today for peace. We came here willing to talk, willing to trust, willing to be part of this council. He took one slow breath as the room trembled around him. But you laughed at us. His words fell heavy, like stones dropped into a quiet lake. You mocked us. Delegates lowered their eyes. None dared meet his. You demanded we surrender our homes, our borders, our freedom. The diplomat's voice softened even more. Not angry, not proud, just filled with deep disappointment, something far more dangerous than rage. But peace only works when both sides respect each other. And now, he nodded slightly, as if giving a signal. The room darkened as the giant shadow outside shifted across the sun. Now you must understand why humanity never needed to shout to be heard. The giant hum began again, deeper, louder, echoing like a storm preparing to break open the sky, and every alien in the chamber felt the same terrifying truth rise inside their chest. Humanity had never been weak. Humanity had simply been quiet. And now the silence was over. The first visual contact came slowly, like a dream turning into a nightmare, as the clouds above Helion Prime twisted into strange spirals of dark silver and deep blue, casting giant shadows across the city, and everyone who looked up felt a cold shiver slide down their spine because the sky suddenly looked too small, too fragile, too helpless to hold whatever was arriving. Delegates ran to the tall glass windows of the chamber, pushing each other in panic, forcing themselves to look even though every instinct inside them screamed to look away. Outside, the sunlight dimmed further as the massive object in orbit drifted closer, not with the engines of a ship, not with the heat of thrusters, but like something that simply decided where gravity should bend. Its presence felt unnatural, silent, terrifying, like the universe itself had paused to make room for it. The giant hull came into view first, smooth metal that looked older than any civilization in the Council. A pale silver surface covered with faint glowing scars and ancient markings that no scanner could read. The metal didn't reflect the sun. It swallowed the light, bending it around its shape like the laws of physics were suggestions and not rules. Delegates pressed their trembling fingers to the glass, their hearts pounding as they whispered to each other. It's alive. No, it's a station. No, a dreadnought. No, it's something else. Something wrong. Below them, millions of alien citizens filled the streets in pure terror. Some screamed. Some held their children. Some fell to their knees. Some simply stared at the sky, paralyzed by the feeling that something beyond comprehension was watching them. News drones flew through the city capturing the scene, broadcasting the horror across dozens of star systems. Every screen displayed the same image of the giant silhouette descending slowly through the clouds like the shadow of a god. The Council's military command shouted for their fleets to form a defensive wall, but the reply came instantly from countless captains across orbit. We cannot approach. Our engines shut down when we move toward it. Another captain whispered through a broken signal, his voice trembling. I heard something. A voice. It told me to stop. Panic spread like fire. Delegates clutched their heads in disbelief. A voice. It spoke to your mind. That's impossible. Yet everyone in the chamber already knew nothing happening today followed the rules of the possible. Outside, the strange ship drifted slightly, revealing more of its enormous surface. Lines of blue light pulsed across its hull like veins carrying energy. No engines. No weapon ports. No visible bridge. It looked like a relic from a forgotten age, built by something far older than the galaxy itself. The human diplomat watched silently, eyes soft, almost sad, as if the reveal hurt him as much as it terrified the council. Behind him, council guards pointed shaking fingers at the sky. If that is a human ship, then humanity lied to us. But the diplomat finally answered, his voice warm but heavy with unspoken truth. We never lied. We just never told you everything. His words rattled them more than the ship itself. Delegates backed away, stumbling, trying to understand how humans, quiet, peaceful humans, could be connected to something that looked so ancient and powerful it reshaped the air around it. The ship moved again, and the clouds parted, revealing the full scale of the monster. It wasn't just big, it was absurdly big, 100 times larger than the largest dreadnought. A floating city, a moon-sized predator. But it had no markings of war, no cannons, no missile ports, no turrets, which somehow made it even more terrifying, because something that powerful didn't need weapons. The diplomat inhaled softly, eyes glimmering as the ship's shadow washed over the chamber. You're all looking at it, he said quietly. You see its size. You feel its presence. But you still misunderstand. The council elder backed into the table, breath shaking. Misunderstand? Misunderstand what? The diplomat turned his head slightly, watching the alien leaders tremble as they stared up at the giant sentinel above them. This is not our warship. Delegates froze. One dropped his datapad. Another fell back into his chair. The chamber filled with a suffocating fear that felt like drowning in cold water. The diplomat continued softly, "This is only the escort." The room erupted. Screams, shouts, cries, disbelief, horror, every emotion hit at once. Escort. There are more. What else did humans build? What kind of monsters does humanity hide? But the diplomat remained silent, letting the fear grow as the truth sunk in. The ship outside rotated slightly, its hull humming with silent energy. Every sensor on the planet failed instantly. Every camera shut off. Every scanner died. Only the naked eye could see it now. Only fear could understand it. Suddenly, a ripple of energy rolled across the sky, forming a circle of faint light above the sentinel. It looked like a tear opening in the atmosphere. Delegates stared at it in disbelief. What is that? Is it preparing to attack? Is something else coming? But the diplomat's voice, though quiet, cut through their panic like a blade. That is the ship scanning your world. The ripple of light moved downward, passing through clouds, through buildings, through the chamber walls. Delegates trembled as it washed over their bodies. No pain, no heat, just a deep sense that something had looked inside them, past their masks, past their skin, past their souls. When the scan passed, the sentinel's hum deepened again, sounding almost curious, like the ship was thinking. Like it was learning. Like it was judging. An alien general whispered, voice cracking, How much does it know now? The diplomat looked at him with quiet sadness. Everything. The general's knees buckled. Several delegates collapsed into their seats, overwhelmed. The sentinel outside finished its slow rotation, its hull shimmering like it was made from starlight. And then, the ship turned its massive surface toward the council building, aligning perfectly with the chamber's skylight. Delegates screamed, bracing for attack. But nothing happened. No weapons fired. No explosions came. Instead, the sentinel simply watched them. Watching with no eyes. Judging with no face. A silent guardian, or a silent warning. One alien whispered through tears, Why would humans bring such a thing here? The diplomat finally turned toward them, voice low, emotional, almost heartbroken. Because you forced us. The sentinel's hum deepened again, vibrating through the city like a final warning. And for the first time in centuries, the council understood something they never believed possible. Humanity did not come to the stars seeking fear. Humanity did not show power because they wanted control. Humanity had been quiet because quiet things were often stronger than loud ones. And now, the galaxy was hearing exactly how loud human silence could become. The ship spoke before anyone inside the chamber even understood that the silence wasn't natural, because one moment the world outside was trembling with the deep hum of the massive sentinel, and the next every sound, every voice, every breath sank into a heavy stillness that pressed against the skin like cold fog, and then all at once every hologram, every data pad, every communication line, every piece of technology on HFY Prime flickered with a single pulse of white light before a new symbol appeared like a ghost rising from ancient history. The same Terran crest that had appeared earlier, only now it glowed brighter, sharper, more alive, and then a voice echoed across the entire planet. A voice so calm and deep that it vibrated through the walls and into the bones of everyone who heard it. A human voice that carried no anger, no threats, only a power so absolute that the council felt small under it. And the voice said in steady, quiet words, "Do not panic. We are here for our people." And the moment those words filled the air, the entire chamber erupted into chaos as delegates screamed at their aides, generals shouted into dead comms, and guards drew weapons they knew were useless but held anyway like children gripping sticks during a storm. Yet the human diplomat didn't move, standing still at the center of the chamber like the calm eye of a collapsing world, watching the panic build around him without blinking, without fear, without even a hint of surprise, because he knew this voice, he understood it, he expected it. And the ship understood him too. The council elder stepped forward with shaking legs, pointing a trembling finger at the skylight where the giant silver sentinel hovered like a moon-shaped guardian, and he shouted desperately, "You have no authority to enter our territory, reveal yourself, show your identity." But the ship ignored him as if his authority meant nothing in the presence of something far older and far stronger. And then the lights in the chamber dimmed again as the voice returned, quieter this time, almost gentle, but somehow more terrifying because of its softness. This world attempted to pressure Earth into surrender. This council threatened our peace. We do not respond with violence unless forced. We respond with presence. And with each word the floor beneath them trembled like the planet itself agreed. The alien generals attempted to activate the planetary defense network again, slamming their fists against unresponsive consoles, shouting orders into headsets that only echoed static, their eyes widening with panic when another message flashed across their screens: access denied. Protocol override. Authority, Sentinel-01, and the general's face drained of color as he whispered, It hacked everything we own. Because HFY Prime's defense grid wasn't just strong, it was legendary. It had stopped fleets before, it had blocked entire invasions, and yet the Sentinel shut it down with the ease of a parent turning off a child's toy. Delegates began to cry, their political power disappearing in a single heartbeat, and the diplomat finally spoke, his voice carrying the heavy weight of someone who wished none of this had happened. "We asked for dialogue. We asked for cooperation. But you mocked us. You cornered us. You pushed us until the only option left was to show you why you should have listened." And his words were not angry, they were sad, almost mournful, which somehow terrified the council even more because sadness meant humanity didn't want to be doing this but would do it anyway if needed. Suddenly the Sentinel shifted position, the clouds cracking open as a beam of soft white light washed across the skies, sweeping through the atmosphere like a quiet wave, not attacking, not destroying, only watching, observing, scanning with impossible precision. And every creature on HFY Prime felt it pass through them like a cold whisper of air moving through their chest, not painful, not harmful, just deeply unsettling because something massive and ancient had just looked inside them, past their titles, past their pride, past their masks, into the truth of who they were. Then the voice spoke again, and this time it wasn't loud. It was soft, almost human-like, filled with a depth of understanding that made the room fall silent not by force but by gravity of emotion. "We offered peace first. You chose to ignore it." The council elder fell into his chair, covering his face with trembling hands, realizing how deeply they had misjudged humanity. Another delegate whispered through shaking lips, What is this thing? Why does it feel alive?" And the diplomat finally looked at him, the pain in his eyes clear enough to make even the strongest alien flinch, and he answered in a single quiet line that crushed their remaining confidence, "It is alive." The chamber froze, every heart stopping for a second as they stared at him, waiting for a joke, a correction, anything. But the diplomat continued softly, "It is a thinking ship. An old protector. A watcher built when humanity feared the darkest age of the galaxy. It wakes only when we are threatened." Outside, the sentinel hummed again, deeper now, almost like breathing, the vibrations rolling through the city in slow pulses, the energy shifting like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant ready to rise if needed. Delegates backed away, some falling to the ground, others gripping the table for support. Their confidence shattered because nothing in their history books, nothing in their training, nothing in their power prepared them for a ship that thought, a ship that chose, a ship that protected humanity without humans needing to ask. Then the voice returned for one final message, slow and crushing, "We will not attack. We are not here for war. But if you continue to threaten our people, then you will learn why the galaxy once feared the quiet ones." And when the voice faded, the chamber felt hollow, the air too thin to breathe, because the council finally understood the truth that cut deeper than any weapon. Humanity had been peaceful not because they were weak, but because they had always been the most dangerous species of all, and today was the first time the galaxy heard their whisper. Fear settled over the council chamber like a heavy blanket the moment the human diplomat revealed even a small part of the truth. But that fear turned into something deeper, something closer to shock, guilt, and a slow-building horror. When he finally began to explain the history the aliens never bothered to ask about, the history humanity never bragged about, the history the galaxy had forgotten because it was too comfortable believing humans were peaceful, simple explorers who never caused trouble, never demanded territory, never boasted about their strength. And yet here was proof that humanity had once walked a path far more terrifying than any empire sitting at the council table. The diplomat raised his hand, and every hologram in the chamber shifted again, flickering as thousands of old Terran files appeared. Ancient recordings, dusty documents, forgotten symbols, and the room filled with soft blue light as scenes from human history floated above them like silent ghosts. Delegates watched with wide eyes as images showed the early Terran defense projects, massive shipyards hidden at the edges of dying stars, mountains of metal carved into impossible shapes, engineers working on designs meant to outlive entire civilizations, and ships so large they looked like planets being assembled piece by human hands. The diplomat's voice carried through the chamber like a slow, cold river, steady but filled with a deep sadness. Before the council existed, before most old empires rose and fell, humanity fought a war your historians erased, he said, and the holograms shifted again, now showing dark galaxies burning, fleets falling apart under strange energy weapons, and human soldiers fighting in suits that looked ancient yet powerful enough to withstand suns. Delegates gasped as the images showed the enemy. Shadows, shapes, incomprehensible beings that moved like nightmares and destroyed entire systems without warning. Some aliens stepped back in instinctive fear. The diplomat saw their confusion and nodded softly. "Yes," he whispered. "This was the war we fought alone." His words froze the room. "Alone?" one ambassador whispered, voice trembling as if afraid of the answer. "You fought that alone?" The diplomat lowered his eyes. "No species came to help us. No one even knew the war happened. We hid it. We buried the truth. Human losses were too great to speak of." The images shifted again. Earth covered in ash, cities burning, ships falling, and then a massive silver shape drifting through darkness. Delegates recognized it instantly. The Sentinel. The diplomat continued, his voice breaking slightly. "We built the Sentinels during that war, not as weapons of destruction, but as guardians, watchers, machines that think, machines that protect, machines that sleep until danger wakes them." The hologram zoomed into the ship's core, showing blue energy swirling like a living mind. Sentinel-01 was the strongest, the diplomat said quietly. "But we lost it when the war ended. It vanished, and we thought it had been destroyed." Delegates stared, stunned, overwhelmed, realizing that what hovered above Helion Prime was not just a ship, it was a survivor. A relic, a guardian older than their own nations. The diplomat took a deep breath, lifting his eyes toward the massive shadow outside. It has been wandering the galaxy for centuries, he said, voice filled with emotion. Silent, dormant, watching, protecting, waiting for a signal. He placed a hand on his chest, right over his heart. And it woke when we were threatened. A single line appeared on every hologram in old Terran script, and when it translated, the entire chamber went dead silent. When Earth is in danger, I awaken. Some delegates covered their mouths. Some wiped tears. Some bowed their heads in shame. The council elder trembled so hard he could barely stand, whispering, "But if you had such technology, why hide it? Why pretend to be weak?" The diplomat looked at him with eyes that were not angry but unbearably tired. "Because the galaxy fears power more than kindness," he said softly. "We wanted peace. We wanted trust. We wanted a chance to grow with the rest of you without being seen as a threat." He paused, voice cracking, "But you mistook peace for weakness." Delegates lowered their eyes, unable to speak. Then, as if responding to the diplomat's words, the sentinel shifted slightly, sending a thin blue beam of light down through the clouds, touching the council tower with a gentle glow that felt like the hand of an ancient protector reaching out. The ship's presence suddenly felt less threatening and more sorrowful, like a wounded guardian returning home after centuries alone. The diplomat's voice softened further, almost a whisper. "You punished us for being quiet. You mocked us for offering peace. You asked us to kneel." He turned toward the holograms again as they showed human ships rescuing alien worlds from natural disasters, delivering aid to species that barely acknowledged them, saving planets without ever asking for recognition. "But we never stopped helping," he said, emotion thick in his voice. "We saved dozens of worlds without telling anyone. We sent ships to storms, to collapsing suns, to dying moons. We caught those who were falling even when they called us weak." The holograms faded. The room dimmed. Only the shadow of the sentinel remained above, watching silently like a guardian ashamed of being forced into the light. And the diplomat faced the council one last time, voice both broken and strong. "We were silent, not powerless." The weight of that truth sank into the chamber like a planet falling into the sea, and every alien present understood for the first time that humanity was never the weak outsider they believed. They were the oldest shield in the galaxy, the quiet force holding back darkness, the species that learned to hide power because they feared what the universe would become if it ever woke again. And now, it was awake. Fear changed its shape inside the council chamber as the truth settled deeper into every mind. It was no longer the sharp fear of a sudden threat but the slow, suffocating fear of realizing everything they believed about humanity, weak, soft, harmless, had been a lie built not by deception but by their own arrogance, and now the entire galaxy stood face to face with a power that never needed to roar because its silence had always been enough. The alien fleets orbiting Helion Prime tried to reorganize, but even their bravest captains refused to move closer to the Sentinel. They could feel it watching them, not with cameras or scanners but with something older, something far more advanced, as if the ship understood intention the way living creatures understood fear, and every time a fleet attempted to advance, their engines would shut down with a soft, almost gentle hum, leaving their warships drifting helplessly like children being told to sit still. Messages began pouring into the council tower, frightened voices from commanders across orbit saying the same thing in different languages. "We can't approach. It's inside our systems. It's inside our ships." One voice trembled more than the rest, the captain of the Helion Vanguard, the strongest dreadnought in their arsenal, whispering, "It spoke to me. Not in words. Something in my mind. It told me go back. I think if I moved forward, I would die." The general in the chamber felt his knees weaken, because the Vanguard was a ship feared across the galaxy, and yet here was its captain, a battle-hardened soldier, crying like a terrified child. Delegates felt the walls closing in as they realized their mighty fleets were nothing more than shadows next to the Sentinel. A group of ambassadors broke down, holding their heads as they whispered, "What have we done? What have we provoked?" The human diplomat watched them with a heaviness in his eyes that made the moment even harder to bear, because he wasn't proud, he wasn't triumphant. He was disappointed, and that disappointment cut deeper than any victory speech ever could. The silence grew thicker when the diplomat approached the main table again, each of his steps echoing like quiet thunder, and he said softly, We did not bring this ship to threaten you. It came because you forced its hand. We asked for peace. You answered with demands. We offered trust. You answered with pressure. We offered cooperation. You answered with threats." His voice trembled, not from fear, but from emotion, the kind that comes from a wound too old to heal. "And still," he added painfully, "we hoped diplomacy would work today." But then the chamber screens flickered once more, not with human history, not with warnings, but with a new message from the Sentinel, Phase 2 requested. Awaiting Terran command approval. Delegates gasped. The council elder grabbed the table to steady himself, whispering through shaking lips, "What is Phase 2? His question broke something inside the room, a final crack in the wall of pride the council clung to. Because the diplomat did not answer immediately, he just closed his eyes for a brief moment like someone carrying a burden he never wanted anyone to see. And when he finally opened them, the chamber felt colder. "Phase 2, he said quietly, "is the deployment protocol. If we approve it, the Sentinel moves from passive mode to active." He didn't need to explain more. Every alien understood exactly what active meant. The council elder collapsed into his seat, hands trembling violently. "Please, stop this," he whispered. "We did not know, we did not understand." But the diplomat's expression softened, sadness washing over his face like an old memory returning. "We never wanted this," he whispered. "If you had trusted us, if you had listened, if you had not pushed us into a corner." He looked up at the giant shadow through the skylight, the Sentinel's faint blue lights pulsing like a heartbeat in slow motion. "We tried to stay small so the galaxy would not fear us," he continued, voice breaking. "But every time we stood quietly at the table, someone somewhere decided silence meant weakness, and today, it finally went too far." Delegates wiped tears as the Sentinel released another soft hum, this one so deep it vibrated through the hearts of those listening. Across the city, thousands of alien civilians fell to their knees, some in terror, some in awe, all realizing at the same time that they were witnessing something historic. Not an invasion, not a war, but the moment the galaxy finally saw humanity's true shape. And yet, something strange began happening in orbit. Warships that once drifted helplessly started turning away. Dreadnoughts shut down their weapons voluntarily. Commanders sent messages to the council saying they refused to fight. Not out of fear, not out of failure, but out of respect. They saw the ship. They felt the warning. They understood the truth. Fighting would be suicide. More messages came from civilian worlds linked to Helion Prime. Protests erupted demanding the council apologize to humanity. Some systems declared they would not support a war against humans. Others begged for peace. The galaxy was shifting, fast. The council elder looked around, eyes wide with helplessness, seeing his political world crumble as everyone turned against them. And in that crumbling silence, the Sentinel sent one more message, awaiting human response. Delegates stared at the diplomat as if the fate of every star in the galaxy was in his hands. His expression twisted in pain because he hated the position they forced him into. Slowly, he walked to the table. He touched the activating panel. His voice was soft, almost broken. "Cancel Phase 2, he whispered. The lights across the chamber flickered. The Sentinel's giant shadow paused in the sky. The hum faded into a softer tone, still powerful, but no longer ready for war. A collective exhale washed through the room. The council elder fell back into his chair, tears in his eyes, whispering, thank you. But the diplomat wasn't done. He leaned forward, his soft voice cutting sharper than any blade. "Don't thank me." His eyes locked with the elders. "Thank the ship for showing mercy, because it only needs one reason not to." Outside, the Sentinel shifted gently, its lights dimming as it returned to passive watch mode, and the galaxy realized something terrifying. Humanity had never needed fire to win respect. All they had ever needed was to wake one ship. The council chamber felt smaller now, as if the walls themselves were leaning inward, listening to every breath the humans took, every whisper of fear coming from alien throats. And the moment Phase 2 was cancelled, a heavy silence settled over everyone. A silence that carried relief, fear, shame, and something new, respect. A kind of respect that came painfully and too late, But it came all the same as the aliens realized humanity had chosen mercy, when they easily could have chosen destruction, and this understanding washed through the room like a quiet storm as the human diplomat lowered his hand from the panel and finally let out the breath he had been holding since the moment the sentinel arrived. A breath filled with exhaustion, sadness, and a deep hurting sense of disappointment. The council elder, his voice shaking, stood slowly as if his bones had turned to dust, and he whispered, "Human, we beg forgiveness, we made a mistake, we misjudged your people." But the diplomat raised a hand gently, stopping him before he could continue, because he was tired of apologies that came only after fear forced honesty. "We didn't want your fear," he said quietly, his tone softer than before but also sharper, cutting deeper because the softness came from truth. "We wanted understanding. We wanted respect. We wanted you to see us as equals, not as targets to pressure or weaken." His eyes moved around the chamber, taking in every trembling face, every bowed head, every ashamed look. "You laughed at us," he said, and though his voice didn't rise, the weight of the words slammed into the room harder than any shout. "You dismissed our warnings. You pushed us into a corner because you assumed peace meant we had nothing behind us." A trembling ambassador tried to speak, but no words came, only tears. The diplomat continued, the tone shifting into something deeper and painfully human. "You didn't listen to our voice, so now you heard our silence." Outside, the sentinel hummed again, not loud this time but soft and low, almost like a breath of wind brushing against every window on the planet. And the sound made the room freeze because it felt almost emotional, as if the ship itself was feeling what the diplomat felt. Regret, sorrow, disappointment at being forced into the light. The general who once demanded war now dropped to one knee, shoulders shaking as he said, "Please, we do not want conflict with your kind. Tell us what you want. Tell us what we must do to fix this." The diplomat's expression softened, but not with victory, only with a quiet grief. "We don't want you to kneel," he said gently. "We just want you to stop forcing us to choose between hiding and defending ourselves." His voice wavered, a rare moment of raw humanity slipping through as he added, "We want peace, but peace cannot survive where respect does not exist." As his words echoed, the chamber windows brightened as the clouds outside shifted, revealing more of the sentinel's silver surface glowing softly, no longer in a threatening posture, but still watching, still guarding, still ready if needed. Delegates watched the ship with awe now, not fear, understanding finally what they should have seen long ago. That humans never postured, never bragged, never demanded tribute or obedience. They simply stood in silence, offering peace over and over until forced to reveal the power they tried so hard to hide. The diplomat walked toward the center of the chamber again, where the main holotable sat dark and inactive, and he placed a small device upon it. It activated instantly, projecting maps across the room, maps too detailed, too accurate, too terrifying. They showed every council's secret base, every hidden weapon center, every illegal operation, every covert experiment. The alien leaders gasped as their darkest secrets floated in the air for all to see. Some stumbled backward. Others choked on their breath. One ambassador fainted. How do you know this?" a trembling voice whispered. The diplomat didn't raise his head. "We have known for decades." Horror rippled through the room. "Then why," the elder whispered, voice barely audible, "why did you not use this information against us?" The diplomat finally looked up, eyes full of a calm pain that made the elder flinch. "Because we wanted friendship, not leverage." The room broke emotionally. Some cried. Some sank into their seats. Some stared at the floor, unable to face the truth of what humanity had been protecting for years without ever asking for anything in return. And then the diplomat spoke the words that shifted the destiny of every species present. "We only ask for respect. Treat us as equals. Treat us with dignity. Accept that peace is our choice, not our weakness." His voice deepened, the weight of ancient human struggle hidden behind each word. "If you want peace, we will offer it freely. But if you choose war," the sentinel's lights pulsed softly outside, the hum deepening for a single second, enough to make every delegate's blood turn cold. "Just know," the diplomat whispered, "our dangerous ship is only the first. The chamber fell into absolute silence, not out of fear now, but out of understanding. The kind that only comes when truth finally burns through the fog of arrogance. And the council realized that humanity, gentle and quiet humanity, had just shown mercy to an entire galaxy that pushed them too far. And mercy from a power like that was not weakness. It was a warning. The galaxy held its breath as the human diplomat's final warning echoed through the chamber, a soft whisper carrying more weight than any weapon, and for a moment the room felt suspended in time, every alien leader frozen between fear and understanding, their hearts trembling as they stared at the quiet human whose people had shown mercy instead of retaliation, restraint instead of rage, wisdom instead of destruction. And just when the tension began to settle, just when the council believed the worst was over, the sentinel outside shifted again, sending a low hum across the sky that rolled through the atmosphere like distant thunder, making windows vibrate and the air tighten, and every delegate instinctively looked upward as the clouds above twisted into spirals of white and silver, opening like a giant blooming flower, revealing a shimmering tear in space itself, a shimmering doorway stretching wider and wider across the heavens until even the bravest aliens felt sweat running down their backs. A sickening realization hit the room all at once. Something else was coming. Something big. Something powerful. Something human. The Sentinel's lights brightened, pulsing in slow rhythm as if calling, not with panic or alarm, but with recognition, with familiarity, with the deep emotional ache of something long separated finally sensing its own kind again. And the diplomat exhaled a long, painful breath as if he knew exactly what the galaxy was about to see. "No, not now," he whispered under his breath. A quiet plea that made the council elder flinch because it showed a truth they had not yet understood. Whatever was coming, even the human diplomat wasn't ready. But the sky didn't care. The tear in space widened, sending arcs of blue light rippling across the clouds like cracks spreading across glass. And then a silhouette emerged, massive, angular, majestic, dwarfing even the sentinel, moving with a grace that should have been impossible for something so large. And for a heartbeat the entire world fell silent as a second ship entered the system. Then a third. Then a fourth. Their hulls glowed with ancient Terran markings long erased from history, their armor pulsing with energy like living skin, their presence shaking the sky as if the stars themselves were bowing in respect. One by one, colossal shapes descended through the clouds, forming an entire fleet above Helion Prime, each ship different but equally terrifying. Some shaped like folded wings, others like drifting fortresses, others like vast silver arcs that cut through the air like blades of starlight, and every alien watching felt something primal awaken inside them, something old and instinctive, a deep instinct that screamed run. Delegates collapsed into their seats. Guards dropped their weapons. Civilians across the planet clung to each other as the sky filled with ships of impossible scale, each one humming with the same ancient energy as the Sentinel, each one alive, aware, intelligent, and guarding humanity like silent sentinels returning home after eons asleep. The council elder, voice breaking, whispered, "How many are there?" But the diplomat did not answer immediately. His eyes were locked on the sky, filled with emotion so heavy it softened even the sentinel's glow. When he finally spoke, his voice carried both sorrow and pride. "These are the ones that heard the signal." Delegates froze, cold sweat sliding down their necks. The diplomat continued slowly. When the sentinel awakened, it sent out an old call through subspace. A call that the ancient fleet was programmed to follow. His voice trembled, not from fear but from an overwhelming sadness that made even the strongest aliens lower their eyes. They were never destroyed. They were never lost. They have been waiting, all this time. And now, they were here. The sky was filled with dozens, maybe hundreds, of ancient Terran guardians returning like ghosts from humanity's forgotten age, and the galaxy watched in helpless awe as they formed a perfect circle around Helion Prime, their silent formation more threatening than any weapon ever built, because it wasn't aggression. It was protection, absolute, unbreakable, unshakable protection. The room finally broke when the largest ship, a colossal serpent-shaped fortress glowing with blue-tinted armor, sent a message across the entire system. The voice was deep, older than the diplomat, older than the sentinel, older than most known species. A machine voice filled with memory, purpose, and loyalty. "We have arrived. Earth is threatened. Who stands against humanity?" Silence. Absolute, crushing silence. Not a single alien dared speak. Not a single fleet dared move. Not a single weapon dared activate. The galaxy understood that humanity's silence had never been weakness. It was warning. The diplomat finally turned back to the council, his expression softer than ever before. "Don't be afraid," he said gently. "They're here for peace too, as long as you don't give them a reason otherwise." His voice carried warmth, not threat, a promise rather than a blade. The room trembled with emotion, fear melting into respect, respect melting into awe, or melting into understanding. And then, for the first time since the meeting began, the council elder bowed his head to humanity, not out of fear, not out of defeat, but out of genuine acknowledgement. "We choose peace," he whispered, "and we accept your people as equals." Outside, the ancient Terran fleet dimmed their lights in unison, a gesture that felt almost like a bow, a silent sign that the galaxy had just changed forever. The skies over Helion Prime glowed with soft blue light, not as a threat, but as a promise. Humanity had awakened. Humanity was done hiding. And now, the galaxy would never laugh at Earth again.